have to take a look at the quarterback position. And I'm not knocking Brock Purdy because for good stretches of the Super Bowl, he outplayed Patrick Mahomes. He did. Brock Purdy played a solid game. Did he miss some of those money down throws that he needed to make? Absolutely. They were 3 for 12 on third down in that game. They had the 1 fourth down conversion. But they were even with the sacks. They were even with the turnovers. They were even with time of possession. They were even with the penalties. And no, that doesn't directly hone in on the quarterback position. But you've had arguably the best teams in the NFL with Jimmy Garoppolo and now Brock Purdy in back-to-back seasons. You've had a top 7 offense in points 4 of the last 5 years. You've had a top 8 defense in points 4 of the last 5 years. You've had a top-tier offensive line for the last 5 years. Sacks given up, pressure rate, success rate. Dynamic players everywhere. Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, Chase Young, Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa. I mean, star-studded, all pros at that. Not just Pro Bowlers, not just guys who put up numbers, all pros. Voted by your peers and people around the league as the best in the position. Brandon Ayuk was one of those. Christian McCaffrey was one of those. Winning Offensive Player of the Year. Trent Williams was one of those. And again, they got Chase Young in a trade this year. Won the trade deadline possibly as slow and dead as it was. And last year, with a slow and dead trade line as well for the NFL, they go and get Christian McCaffrey. So it's not a matter of shortage of talent. But when you look at the quarterback position, he's not nearly as dynamic as all the other ones. And this is as dynamic as the other positions and players on the 49ers team. And this is where you start to ask the question of, did the Niners build their identity correctly? Because the whole time with Shanahan there, game managing quarterback, Garoppolo. All right, we're going to take Brock Purdy, dead last pick in the draft. Nobody expected him to be what he is. It's no slight to him, but he was taken last in the draft per tape per reason and per scouting for a reason. But, and I get it, he tried to get it right with Trey Lance, albeit a very wild haul to go get him, and kind of an interesting development in how they chose to pick him when he hadn't played a lot of college games and, basically missed a whole year in his college tenure. But the Niners have never, in the last 5 years, built their team around a dynamic quarterback like the Texans, like the Chargers are looking to do, like the Bengals have done, like the Ravens have done, like the Bills have done. Hell, even like the Cowboys have done, like the Jets were trying to do before Aaron Rodgers got injured. It is centered around the quarterback. And any quarterback in the league that isn't going to have the type of weapons that Purdy has with the embarrassment of riches in San Francisco, of course their production is going to be affected. But for Christ's sake, we just saw Patrick Mahomes win the Super Bowl with the most amount of drops from his wide receivers in the NFL. Why? Because he's dynamic. Shanahan and Reed, comparable. Obviously, Andy's much better. Obviously, Andy's got 3 trips. Obviously, Andy's got a better postseason record. Obviously, Andy's got a better all-time win percentage and total wins. Shanahan is still great, elite, one of the top, best coaches in this league. One of the top best rosters in this league. But it's when you take a look back at Brock Purdy, because in 2019 in the Super Bowl, we saw Jimmy Garoppolo miss Emmanuel Sanders for what would have been a touchdown. And we saw Brock Purdy play well for most of this game. But when it really came down to it, he didn't deliver. And it just comes down to a point of, when do the San Francisco 49ers go and get dynamic, not game manageable, not good, but great, elite, dynamic, superstar driven at the quarterback position? Because I'm waiting on it. I know Niners fans are waiting on it. I know the Bay is waiting on it. And I understand Brock Purdy's cheap right now. They can pay everyone else. But San Francisco literally has an embarrassment of riches. You don't think they could do without I don't know, maybe an Eric Armstead and a Brandon Ayuk? You don't think they could do without that? They might tell Chase Young to walk because he's due for a payday. Brock Purdy's coming up due for a payday. And respectfully, I don't know why Brock Purdy would make any less than $40 million a year. Brock Purdy just had a great season, 4,000 plus yards, 30 plus touchdowns, over 100 passer rating, great completion percentage, Super Bowl appearance, only lost by 3 in overtime to a top 3, top 4 quarterback ever. He is going to want to get paid. He deserves to get paid. Being the dead last pick in the draft, what he's done is remarkable. But San Francisco has to get to a point to where they look inward and say, we need to get dynamic at quarterback. Because I don't believe seeing how these other elite dynamic quarterbacks in the NFL, like Lamar, like Herbert, like Mahomes, like Burrow, like Josh Allen, how do you get past them when everything's not lined up perfectly? When it's, a rough stretch down the season and you've got your Trent Williams and your Debo Samuel and your Christian McCaffrey banged up when we saw the Niners lose 3 games in a row after being 5-0. When we saw Patrick Mahomes be injured in a Super Bowl and scramble with a bum ankle and go and win Super Bowl MVP and win the Super Bowl in a 38-35 shootout over the Philadelphia Eagles and that elite defense. Why was that possible? Because Mahomes is special. Purdy's not. And that's okay. Brock Purdy can win a Super Bowl with this roster if it's perfect. But look me in the windows of my soul and tell me when it's perfect. Really, after week 1, nobody's ever perfectly healthy after the first few snaps and maybe first few drives of a game. Everyone's got something tweaked. That's why the injury reports have to be so honest. But tell me when it's perfect down the stretch. We'll just say, for conversation's sake, last 5 games of the season, postseason in the Super Bowl. It's usually not. There's usually people dealing with injuries, whatever the case is, to where the team is not 100%. They're just not. Ayuk is gone. What's good? Thank you, Megan. Appreciate you loving the podcast. Darby, what's good, man? Ayuk being gone is interesting. I can see that happening. Him being an all-pro, it would be a blow for them, for sure. But yeah, uh, they got to start looking at more dynamic positions at quarterback. I just think that they have to. Purdy really didn't do anything wrong for most of the year. But again, how long can you have a loaded roster front and back, offensively and defensively, an elite head coach in Kyle Shanahan, whether he's done what he has in Super Bowls or not, and the front office in San Francisco, and continue to have a game manager at quarterback in today's NFL where it's star driven and offensively driven and very, very quarterback centric?